Time for
DodgerHeads. What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Medium Large Sports Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Anthony Witrado, here to break down all things Dodgers. Thanks to everybody who stayed up a little bit later for us on a Sunday evening. Anthony, happy Sunday to you. How are you, my friend?
Doing good today. End of the weekend, end of the series. Could have been a little better, but hey, I've seen some of the folks on the chat already saying, we'll take it. If we would have said on Thursday night going into the series, going to take 2 out of 3, not sure which 2 it's going to be, but there are going to be some fun ones in there, we would have taken it. So I'm overall happy.
I love it. I love it. Thanks to everybody, as always, joining us live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. Thanks to those listening after the fact, Apple, Spotify, Google, via podcast. We have a ton to get to tonight. Of course, we're going to end the show with some live Q&A. We're going to do injury updates. I think I have 18 pitchers that I need to give you an injury update on. We're going to talk some stock up, not necessarily stock down. We got a bunch of stock up guys on the offensive side of things that I want to talk through, as well as an interesting rumor from Bob Nightingale about the Dodgers potentially engaging in trade conversations. But, Anthony, yesterday I was in on the Dodgers. I'm out. They lost today, June 1st. We're no longer in May. These losses are unfreaking acceptable, Anthony. It's June 1st. We can't be having this.
You cannot be under 500 at any point in any month of the season.
It's true. It's true. They're 0-1 in June, and I'm starting to be concerned, Anthony. I know they beat this team twice in a row just before this. They destroyed them yesterday. Beautiful comeback victory on Friday, but I'm out, Anthony. This is the team that, maybe we start selling these guys off for parts and pieces.
Yeah, might be time for the rebuild.
Yeah, exactly. Aaron with the super chat says, despite the loss, we made a statement this series. We embarrassed the Yanks with our hospital team. Once we get healthy-ish, we will be scary. Aaron, perfectly said. The Dodgers take 2 out of 3 from the Yankees. This is not a team that is at full strength. Mookie Betts doesn't even play in the final 2 games, not to mention all the pitching injuries that they've been navigating. And really, Anthony, when I think about this series and the first 2 that they won, it was everything you wanted to see. The first game, they go down. I was in text threads where people were ready to start piling onto this team a little bit. And then all of a sudden, lo and behold, the Dodgers are coming back against the Yankees again yesterday, 18-2 or whatever the final score ends up being. So they do win 2 out of 3. It's not the perfect sweep, but the way they won Friday and Saturday, I think speaks a lot louder than how they lost on Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, and I think a lot of Sunday can be chalked up to their best pitcher just kind of wasn't on his game. And that happens from time to time. It's fine. But the first 2 games, I thought game 1, especially on Friday, really sort of showed that it felt like the Dodgers were playing like the team who lost the World Series, maybe, you know what I mean? And played with that sort of fire. And so that was pretty impressive to see. I will say that. And then the absolute onslaught, the belt to booty on Saturday was fantastic to see. Having in a game like that against a team like that in a big series for the fans, having a no stress win like that was an easy way to go into Saturday night for a lot of folks, I think. So very thankful that they were able to do that, and thankful that Max Muncy, Michael Conforto, Hae-Sung Kim, the whole bunch really gave people, I think, a whole lot of things to be promised, to have some promise and hope about. Things are starting to trend, as you say, up and to the right for some guys. And if that happens, because I think the super chat is right. Healthy-ish is just kind of what this team needs to get, like, just really start to sort of step on the gas. And obviously that all comes on the pitching side. But I think they're showing what the offense is capable of.
Yeah, and that's the key, right? And the pitching is not healthy. We're going to talk about the 15th pitcher that went on the injured list for the Dodgers in the last couple of days, which I don't know if there is a record, but they've got to be approaching it if they haven't already. And yet they go against a team in the Yankees who has a 5.5 game lead in the American League East. They have the second best record in the AL behind only the Tigers. We know about Aaron Judge. We know about, how well Paul Goldschmidt is playing. They faced Warren, who's, a pitcher that's been really good for them this season so far. And yet the Dodgers dismantle them with basically one aspect. We talk a lot on this show, Anthony, about if the Dodgers can get 2 out of 3 from starting pitching, bullpen, and offense to work, they're going to win a lot of games. They have one of the 3 right now. Their bullpen is terrible. Their starting pitcher, depending on the day, has been okay. Landon Knack was really good yesterday. But the offense, it doesn't matter. The way the offense is playing, the way Ohtani is playing, the way Freddie Freeman is playing, Will Smith is playing, Teoscar Hernandez is playing, and now a guy like Max Muncy, who we're going to talk about a little later. When you stack all those things together, that's the reason we've had so much optimism about this team. It's just wait. And the beauty is, Anthony, they just took 2 out of 3 from the Yankees, and we're still saying the same thing. Just wait until Glasnow, Snell, Ohtani, Emmet, Sheehan, whoever else comes walking through those doors to give us a better pitching product than what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I agree. And it was maybe a week ago, I think, that we said, the offense is mostly healthy and mostly there. This was before Mookie's toe thing, obviously. And said, look, if that's the one thing that they're going to have night to night on a more consistent basis, they're going to give themselves a larger margin for error. There's going to be a lot more cushion for the pitching staff if the offense is able to do the things that we've seen them do recently. And I know there's a little dip there, but this is what that offense is capable of doing. Is they're capable of going, you know what? We're in trouble in these other couple of areas. We'll mask it for a while. And that's we're seeing a lot of that right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Dodgers lead in the division, by the way, up to 2 games, Giants 3 games back. Padres 2 games back, Giants 3 games back, and the Diamondbacks, who Corbin Burns, who knows what the update is on that, but they are 8 games out as well. Let's talk today's game. 300 with the super chat. Soft tossing lefty that we put out in the garbage last year, and DJ LeMahieu took us down today. It was not a pretty game, Anthony, and we'll get to Yamamoto here in a second, but Yarbrough had the Dodgers offense stifled. There was an errant Andy Pages throw. There was a failed Kike Hernandez tag. There were just these little things that even when there was Andy Pages trying to steal third right before Tommy Edman hits a home run, there were just little things that the Dodgers didn't do. Ultimately, I don't think that's why they lost today. Yamamoto wasn't great, and the offense couldn't figure it out. But I'll be honest, if you would have told me that they were only going to get 2 runs against a Ryan Yarbrough start, I would have been unpleasantly surprised with that information.
Yeah, and if you would have just known that was the only thing you knew about this series, you might think they were going to lose it.
Yep, exactly. Today felt like the one that was the safest bet for them to win, Yamamoto versus Yarbrough.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best pitchers in the American League on Friday, and they eventually, took him a little bit, but they took him down. And then Knack's start gets overshadowed, I think, in the offensive onslaught on Saturday. But yeah, I mean, it was essentially Yamamoto wasn't great. And, I think 1 through 4 were like 0 for 15, 0 for 16, something like that. So you go, you toss in that number, you toss in the Yamamoto stuff. Not a great recipe for success for this club right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Bacon Tree says Emmet cannot come up fast enough. Rojas's hot zones and stats against lefties is an oof for me right now. Muncy OPS and weighted runs created plus higher than Mookie. No good. All of these things are things we're going to talk about. So stay tuned for that. We appreciate the super chat. We will talk Emmet Sheehan, Miguel Rojas, Max Muncy, and then a Mookie Betts injury update as well. So thank you for the super chat, Bacon. Before we shut the door on today, because I don't want to just completely pass over it, let's talk Yamamoto, because I think if there was a story from today, it was that the Dodgers ace, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, had by far his worst start of the season. It was the first time all year he didn't go 5 innings. 96 pitches was where he ended up. You see the stat line, 7 hits, 3 walks, so 10 base runners and not even 4 innings. He allows the 4 earned runs with just 2 strikeouts. I've got some numbers I can jump into here, and I'll preface this and without even knowing for sure what you're going to say. I know we agree on this. This is a blip on the radar, folks. There is not more to this story in our estimation about Yamamoto. Guys sometimes just don't have it. Today was that day for Yamamoto, but I'm curious, Anthony, what did you see that seemed a little bit off that allowed the Yankees to get to him in a way that nobody else has.
Yeah, I think it was it was just a lack of overall command of his pitches. We had talked, I think, in his maybe 2 starts ago. No, I think it was actually the Cleveland start. Is that who he started against last? Anyway, we had talked about him having like he looked as good as he had in any start. Maybe not considering circumstances like Game 2 of the World Series. Like he was just his stuff was that good. I thought today it was on the other side of it. Maybe not so much the stuff, but like his command of it at least. He was not putting the ball where he wanted to. And those home runs were a product of that as well. And you're not going to do yourself any. I think bigger evidence of that is the walks, because he's not a guy that we typically see do that. The 3 walks in the 3+ innings for him is a little bit unusual. And I thought that was more telling of just like him not having it today than the home runs.
Yeah. 2 of the numbers that jumped out to me that sort of, I think, summed up his day. The first one was his splitter. This has been one of the best pitchers in all of Major League Baseball, utterly dominant. He threw 27 of them tonight. He got just 3 swings and misses and did not get a single called strike on that pitch. So the pitch that he relies on to be devastating was not devastating tonight. And as a result, he got 15 different players into a 2-strike count. 15 of the 15, 7 of them reached base. That is just simply not going to get the job done when it comes to how this thing plays out for Yamamoto. Of those 7, 4 were singles, 1 was a home run, and then 2 walks as well. So when you can't put anyone away because your devastating splitter isn't landing, Anthony, that's a recipe for disaster for a guy like Yamamoto.
Yeah, and I thought that even if he had better command of that, if he had better fastball command, he still could have figured it out. I think he's a good enough pitcher at this level now that he could have done that. But that was kind of all over the map a little bit as well. So I'm with you. Blip on the radar, not concerned. The fact that he made the start was a good sign considering the hip thing that, there was some question about. And we said it then that the Dodgers are always cautious about this kind of stuff. So he probably would not have taken the ball if they thought there was anything there. He said after the game he was fine. Bigger picture, that's the most important thing for me.
Well, and let's talk that out because I've seen it in the chat, and I think it's reasonable to at least ask the question when the guy leaves his last start against Cleveland with a little bit of a hip thing. Dave Roberts downplays it in real time, but says, hey, that's why he came out of the game maybe earlier than some people were hoping to in that one. He had thrown just 88 pitches through 6 innings against Cleveland. He gets taken out. And then his next start, Anthony, is the first time he goes under 5, and he has his worst start of the season. I don't think it's unreasonable for people to at least ask the question about if we should connect those dots. It sounds like you are not connecting those dots, that it's pure coincidence that start and that hip injury happened to be, sequentially ordered the way that they have been.
Yeah. I think it's fair to ask the question. I'm not saying it's not fair to ask that. I just don't think those 2 things are connected right now. Okay. He shut that down convincingly, I thought, after the game. And again, I think that he would not have continued in that last start after it happened if it was a serious thing. And I don't think he would have taken the ball today. I don't think the Dodgers would have let him do either.
Yeah.
If they thought there was anything serious about this. So, he lost a bit of that command after that hip thing in the last start. So it was kind of interesting to see that the command wasn't there today, but I'm going to have to see more evidence of that before I say, that's definitely the thing that is causing it.
Yeah. And it's worth pointing out too, I see some people in the chat asking about rest. Keep in mind that since May 2nd, he has been on this every 6 days rhythm that he has now become the new normal. All through April, it was every Friday. May 2nd, it was Friday. And then it was Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday. So that's still extended compared to the quote unquote average major league pitcher. But again, I think these are reasonable questions to ask. What puts it to bed for me, and maybe I look like an idiot in 3 days because we get some update that he's going on the injured list. And I hope that's not the case. Could happen. I would just say the way that the Dodgers have handled every other pitching, even potential injury so far this season has been precautionary to the max. And so the idea that they would take a chance with an 80% Yamamoto today and actually send him out there, to me, is
series 1.
Yeah. with the series won, and even if the series hadn't been won on June 1st.
It's June 1st, right? Yes.
So, yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how this all plays out. We'll see if he ends up getting extended rest or how they navigate that. But that's what I would just say to the people questioning. It would be very against the grain of everything else the Dodgers have been doing as far as how they've handled their pitchers. Wouldn't be the first time they zagged a little bit.
Sure.
But the reports on Glasnow, on Snell, on Sasaki all feel like there's a lot of precaution going on in those situations, more so than feeling like they were going to need to rush something.
Yeah, even with the other guys like Ohtani and, like last year with Gonsolin, like even those guys, like just, slow playing it, being extra cautious, just felt like if this was a real thing that was like a real concern, he would not have made the start today.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If you missed the game today, the Yankees got out to a 1-0 lead on a bizarre play in which the Yankees had runners at first and second with 2 outs. I believe it was Jason Dominguez. He singles to Pages. And I'm sure every Dodgers fan was in the same boat as me. We could not believe that they sent the runner from third because of the hose that Pages has. And Pages, I think, was a little surprised that they sent it because he airmailed that ball 25, 30 feet over the head of Will Smith. It lands, so the run scores. It lands in the glove of Yamamoto. Well, now he's got the guy between first and second dead to rights. He fires an absolute strike to Kike Hernandez.
Best command of the night.
Best command of the night, who couldn't get the tag, got the tag on him. Ball pops out, so the runner is safe. Thankfully, Yamamoto gets out of the inning, but that gives them a 1-0 lead. In the bottom of the second, Pages doubles, tries to steal third. Nobody in the world knows why the hell he was trying to steal third. Of course, Edmund ends up homering. That ends up a 1-1 game instead of a potential 2-1 lead, but top of the third, it fell apart. Judge walk, Rice homer makes it 3-1. Single wild pitch makes it 4-1. And that was kind of all she wrote for the Dodgers. A couple home runs added on at the end by Pages and Muncy, but the Dodgers lose this one 7-3. So again, the Dodgers take 2 out of 3 in this series. And Anthony, as we kind of close the book on this one, I think about the Dodgers schedule, and we've been talking about just how intense of a stretch that they are in the midst of this, starting with the Diamondbacks. They take 2 out of 3. They get 1 out of 3 from the Mets, 2 out of 3 from the Guardians, now 2 out of 3 from the Yankees. So that's 4 straight series in a row. They're 3-1 as far as series go. It's not done yet. Right now, they have the Mets coming to town starting tomorrow. Then they're at the Cardinals, at the Padres, Giants, Padres again before the stretch ends. But if you would have told anybody, hey, the Dodgers are going to stack 7 wins, go 7-5 over these first 4 series, that's pretty impressive given the state of the roster.
Yeah, and with some of the teams that they've played, I'd have been totally fine with that because look, that's a 12-game stretch.
Yeah,
you go 2 games over every 12-game stretch while your roster looks like this,
right?
Boy, you end up with a pretty good record. Like let's say at the end of 6 weeks or so.
I mean, that's 95 win pace.
Right.
But the sample we're talking about is only against, teams in the top 10 in all of Major League Baseball, basically.
Right.
So,
yeah. I would look, I've been saying, I would not be surprised if they end up right around 500 for this stretch. If they keep going 7-5, there's no guarantee of that. I know, but like, we'll take what we know where they're at now with it. If they keep going 7-5, let's say for the rest of June, they're going to come out of this month looking pretty good.
Yeah. I think there's 17 games in total. Let's see, 10, 13, 17. Yeah, 17 more games over the 5 series they have left because the Mets series coming up and then the second of the 2 Padres are both 4 games set. But, I mean, if the Dodgers can go 10-7 on that stretch and finish this trip, 19-12, I guess that would make them. That's a pretty... or 19-14, maybe, whatever the number is. But that would be a pretty impressive run for the Dodgers to be able to go on. So I see a lot of people talking about Miguel Rojas, so we can get into some of the stuff around him. LLM213 says, Rojas should be the new CT3, be a defensive replacement in the 8th inning and start once a month. I thought he meant just DFA him, which we'll get to in a little bit. Kim went 4 for 4 yesterday. He should have played today. Noah Martinez along the same lines. After seeing Kim and Rojas's performance this series, what is your thoughts on an everyday role for Kim? Rojas kills rallies. So I'll let you go first. Do you want to talk about Kim or do you want to talk about Rojas, Anthony?
I'll talk about Rojas first.
Okay.
when people were sort of clamoring last season for him to be the everyday shortstop guy and wanted Mookie moved out, and then Mookie got hurt and that talk sort of died down, but there was a lot of like free Rojas kind of discussion. We said this is not a guy you want taking 500 plate appearances a season. And I think the season before, I think the season before, was it the season before that he was like okay offensively?
I think it was the beginning of last year.
Maybe it was the beginning of last year. Maybe that's why there was the call for him. But yeah, we're like, look, this is all fine and good now, but like this is not a guy that you want up there every single day.
Yeah.
This is why this is who he is. And the defense has suffered, I think, to a point where he's on the roster and he's not even an all glove kind of guy anymore. He's like he's a fine defender, but he's not like that. If this guy ever found his way into an everyday lineup, he's like a gold glove caliber defensive player. He's not that guy. And so if the Dodgers are already on board with letting go of guys like Taylor, Barnes, I can't see how Rojas lasts much longer because he's essentially sucking up a roster spot that it could be used and have a lot more value given the position he plays, the positions he can occupy. And so having him on this roster much longer, considering what you've already done to your veteran and clubhouse guys, I would guess his days are numbered.
Yeah. Look, I said Rojas would have been the first to go. Out of the two guys who got DFA'd, I would have sent Rojas packing before I sent Taylor. I mean, Barnes is a separate category because that's like that's not a like for like. But Rojas, to me, I just don't see the need, the value. I know he plays a competent shortstop on a day like today. I just don't believe in the bat whatsoever. I think he's lost a step. He's probably overrated defensively at this point just because the range is so far diminished. So that leads to the Haesung Kim conversation. And I'll amend it because I see some people in the chat basically saying Haesung Kim should play every day until Mookie comes back, which I think is an important distinction. Once Mookie is in place, to have Haesung Kim playing every day, I think you'd have to choose him over a guy like Michael Conforto would be the alternative guy who we're going to get to him in a little bit later, but it seems like he's starting to figure things out. To me, Rojas should never play over Haesung Kim. And everybody in the chat who knows me knows I was dead wrong on how quickly Haesung Kim would figure it out. And I'm thrilled to have been wrong about this. He is defying history and defying all of the trends of the guys that came before him. And he's doing it in incredibly exciting fashion to boot. So Kim playing over Rojas every single day and every single time, to me, makes perfect sense. I'm not ready to get to him being an everyday player when guys are healthy. But for now, if Mookie Betts is out for a couple more days, I can't think of a single good reason why he wouldn't be in every single day. I'm with you. I'm with the chat. And I like, the distinction with Mookie is important because I think once he does, then there's other conversations to be had. But I think for now, and when Rojas is the other option for whatever position you're trying to throw guys in, Kim needs to be the answer to that question. Yeah.
He's that slash line isn't going to look like this for an entire season. Like, we understand that, right? But I don't think it needs to, because he does other things well enough defensively. His arm is better than I thought too. Like, that was kind of a nice surprise that, I saw the scouting reports when they signed him and all that stuff, but like to see him in person use it is he's been pretty impressive there. The speed is a thing that doesn't slump. Hopefully the guy doesn't get hurt, knock on wood. He's a Dodger, so who knows? But that's a thing that this basically this entire roster lacks at the moment.
Yeah.
And so and smart speed too, right? Yeah. Like he's a pretty heady player. So yeah, I mean, for those reasons, even if, once the bat does starts to come back to earth, he still has tools, I think, that are valuable on this roster.
Totally.
So I'm with everybody here. Like, he should be playing over Rojas. I don't even understand how that's still a question at this point for the Dodgers. Totally
agree. And I think Kim has established for us the floor of what he's going to be, which is going to be a utility guy who can give you coverage at shortstop, second base, and center field, which are all incredibly valuable positions. Yep. He's going to give you plus speed. And if even 75% of the offensive improvements that we've seen from him compared to his time in Korea are real, then that's amazing, because he doesn't need to be an 850 OPS guy to have value. He just needs to be like a 700, 750 OPS guy that doesn't kill you with his bat and then brings everything else to the table that he's already shown us he can bring.
Yeah. And I think too, this is a really good time. It's June. I mean, this should have been happening already. You would have been second half of May. It's early June. Mookie's on the shelf for a little while. You have questions about him against lefties? Let's see it. And I know that they've done this in OKC and they have their reasons. I get that. But let's just see.
Yeah.
Let's see how he handles himself, because at any point during his contract, if you think that he could potentially be an everyday guy, start letting him see some lefties.
Yeah. We've talked on this show. We hate how quickly the Dodgers just assume guys are going to be platooned. But we'll see. Well, I'm hopeful that maybe this was a blip in the radar and that Kim starts to get some more run. And again, even if he's not the everyday guy, we've talked on this show, like Tommy Edman, if you just decide, okay, Edman, Conforto, Pages, if those three guys are all going to get like a day off a week, let's say, well, then all of a sudden there's 3 games and maybe Muncy gets a day off. So if he starts averaging 3.5 games a week that he's playing, because you're able to give Mookie a break every once in a while, Muncy a break every once in a while, Teoscar a break every once in a while. If I get Kim 3.5 times a week, Anthony, once this team is fully healthy, to me, that's sort of the pathway forward for the Dodgers.
Yeah, and I know that was the plan. Excuse me. I know that was the plan when he was called up, right? Dave said, 3.5 starts a week. I would have to look at the numbers, but it doesn't even feel like he's gotten that yet. It feels like we go longer stretches than is appropriate without seeing him in the starting lineup.
Yeah. I'm trying to look. I mean, basically Monday to Saturday. So he didn't play Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. So that was 4 days off in between. He technically played in the first game of the Yankees, but did not record an at-bat. If you go back from Monday, it looks like you'd have to go back to Tuesday. I mean, yeah, basically from May 31st, he had 4 at-bats. He had, you'd have to go back to Monday the 26th to get 3 at-bats. Then you'd have to go back to Friday the 23rd for his previous at-bat. The 20th, he had 2 at-bats. So, we'll see how it goes moving forward. Let's talk about some of the guys, though, that are in the mix here. Let's talk stock report on 4 offensive guys that I wanted to highlight who are trending up. If I was being honest, a couple of days ago, Tommy Edman almost made this list for the wrong reasons. Thankfully, he seems to have busted out of the slump that he is in. And you could make a case, if we do the show 5 days from now, he could be on the stuck up category based on how the last 2 days have gone, doubles, home runs, all sorts of stuff. But let me just give you some numbers. Ohtani, he hit 15 home runs in the month of May, tied the franchise record for most home runs in a month by a Dodgers player. If you go back to May 3rd, so not even the full month, he has 15 homers, 5 doubles, and a triple, and is slashing 321, 411, and 811. That's over a full month. Anthony has 15 home runs in the last 29 days. It doesn't even, I'm sure when I saw that he had set the record, I don't even remember him hitting all those home runs. It's just normal for me to see him at home run. I don't pay attention. When he hits 3 home runs in 4 days, that doesn't register on the Richter scale for me, Anthony.
I'm with you because he is 2 other guys in my sports fandom have ever been what I'm about to call Ohtani.
Yeah.
It is a couple of these were pre-smartphone, full-on smartphone and apps and all that stuff. But you find out when, and I was like a teenager or early college days, Barry Bonds. Yeah. During that just incredible run.
Yeah, none of us want to hear that, but sadly,
no. And I understand that. But he was also doing some historic things during that time, so that made it part of it. Where okay, he's on deck. I'm going to change the channel.
Yeah,
A-Rod in that
late. Is there going to be a likable guy on this list anywhere, Anthony? Are we going to get to somebody slightly more likable?
Unfortunately, these are the guys who have done those kinds of historic things, and it sucks that those 2 names are first. And this was also I liked A-Rod as a Mariner, and I liked A-Rod early as a Ranger. At that point, he hadn't done anything completely ridiculous that made me hate him. And also, I grew up playing shortstop, so I had that too with him that made me like him. So A-Rod's coming up. Change the channel. I'm going to watch this at bat.
Yeah.
Shohei's that guy right
Yeah.
now. Even if I'm like in a place where I can't have the game on the phone or something like that, I'm following it on game day or whatever. I'm quickly pushing the watch button so I can watch just that at bat. Or if I'm doing something else or I'm late to something and I know he hit, even if I know already he made an out, I'm rewinding it to see what that at bat looked like. He, for me, is drop everything, stop what you're doing, put the game on TV for me right now. And he would be that if I weren't a Dodger fan, because I just told you who the other two guys were in my lifetime who I've done that for. He's just that incredible. And this feels weird to say given the numbers, but he feels more dynamic than Aaron Judge is.
Yeah, interesting.
From an entertainment, like electricity standpoint, and maybe because he comes up with he does some crazy damage in some high leverage situations, like go ahead home runs or late inning home runs or 9 base games, those kinds of performances that he's capable of. And Aaron Judge is fantastic and he's great. But for me, I think Ohtani just has that, again, stop what you're doing and watch this for 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's crazy. Again, ties the franchise record for most home runs in a month in the month of May. He ends up hitting 15 home runs. Freddie Freeman next on this list, going back to April 29th. So we're over a month in this case. He's hitting 423 over the last month plus, Anthony, a 480 on base, a 685 slug. And in many ways, he kind of does it quietly, again, because you sort of expect him to go 2 for 4. When Freddie Freeman doesn't go 2 for 4 with a double, it feels disappointing. And then all of a sudden you pop up and you say, hey, over the last 35 days, the guy's hitting 423. Insane stuff from Freddie Freeman. But let's get to the two names on this list that I think are not surprising in the sense that people are going to be surprised we're talking about them. But if you rewound the tape on a lot of people's minds and monologues a week ago, you'd be having very different conversations. And Muncy's the one that we have to start with. The last 19 games, he's hitting 300 with a 408 on base and a 583 slug. He hits another home run today. He has 2 home runs yesterday. I texted our guy Daniel Starkin not to throw him under the bus. He dropped him in our fantasy league a few weeks ago. Your boy picked him up just in perfect time, and then he's taken off since then. But in all seriousness, this was a guy, Anthony, that was getting dropped in fantasy baseball leagues by Dodgers fans 3 weeks ago. And then all of a sudden, since then, he's been, I don't want to say peak Max Muncy, but the Max Muncy that a lot of people, us two included, were up here defending and not, posting about, hey, at the trade deadline, they're going to have to upgrade this position necessarily. So glasses has been a narrative here. I don't know how much it's the glasses, how much it's not the glasses. I just know that old Muncy seems to be back.
Looks like it. It looks like it. He's starting to barrel the ball. It feels more frequently. And that was a staple of old good Max Muncy.
Yeah.
And he just kind of wasn't doing that a lot this time. This season. Also, it seems like he's starting to catch up a little bit more often to the high fastball. And it felt like that's been a black hole for him during this slump. And I think the ball he hit out on, was it yesterday? One of these home runs recently was a high fastball that he caught.
I think it was the second one that he put off the foul pole.
There was one. I want to say there was one before yesterday too.
Okay.
But you're right. That one also. But to my point, he's starting to catch those more often.
Yeah.
And so I think that's another big sign for him. He's also just had a better approach lately. Like we talk about, what those recent numbers are, but in the last month or so, his OBP has been 370, 380.
Yeah. Last 19 games, it's over 400 with the 580 slug.
Yeah. And so even when the swing results weren't quite there yet, the approach had already gotten better. He was already turning that corner.
Yeah. And I think this is all the people that were preaching patience with a guy like Muncy. This is what we were expecting. And so, of course, there's a chance that it's going to regress. There's a chance that this is maybe a mirage. And yet I think Anthony Muncy has given us enough over the last 4 or 5 years. And I know some people are going to say, hey, who cares about the past? I don't care about what Muncy did in 2022. But it just makes you believe that what we're seeing, he's done this sustainably.
Yes.
And maybe you believe he's fallen off a cliff age-wise, athleticism-wise, etc. I'm not there. So I believe some version of this was possible, which makes me believe this isn't a mirage. Is that where you're at?
I'm totally with you. Also, he's gone through extended slumps in all of these seasons that he's ended up with really good numbers.
Yeah.
It so happens that this one came basically at the start of the season until, maybe 3 weeks ago or so, whatever line of delineation you want to use. And so it's magnified because it's the start of the season. Everything that happens from the start of the season until whenever you break out is going to be amped. Also, those calls for Nolan Arenado, look at their numbers now.
Check it.
Go check those numbers now and tell me who you want. And for the people who say, yeah, but defense, yeah, but look at the contract.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So Muncy's there, and then Conforto's the last one. And the numbers are not nearly as impressive for Conforto, but 260, 400, 420 over the last 16 games for Conforto. This feels like it's more in line. The last 16 games are in line with clearly what the Dodgers thought they were getting when they paid him $17 million. So I think the more complicated question with Conforto, Anthony, is are you buying this? Muncy has given us a track record. Last year was one of the best offensive seasons of his career. It was the best offensive season in the last 4 or 5 for Muncy. So believing 2025 he's capable of it is easy. As Dodgers fans, many people have never seen him perform and achieve because this is his first year and he struggled so badly. And yes, I just talked about a guy who's hitting 260. That's not all that amazing. He's got an 820 OPS, which I would say is very good, but not great. So are you buying anything of this last 2 or 3 weeks that you've seen from Conforto?
I am. I'm buying it. And I was like, we joked about this the other day. I was hanging on to the life raft of Michael Conforto with trying to stick my nose in the air just above water, but I was essentially ready to let it go.
Yeah.
And then, I think it was the home run in Cleveland and, he's gotten it going. Part of me saying like, okay, I might be sort of cleaning my hands of all of this with this experiment. Not that he was going to get DFA'd. He's not going to. We know that. But was that there was also some ugly trends aside from all the hard hit stuff.
Yeah.
Those are starting to come around and those are starting to fix themselves now. I think that where I'm starting to be a believer is that he can be a contributing player, not that he's going to go on a pace where over the next 162 games, he would, it would be 44 homers. I'm not saying that. I'm saying he's just going to be good enough that when you run him out there, we're fine. And that he's not going to be a complete hole at the, in the bottom third of the lineup. And if he's that, I'm honestly fine with it.
Right. I mean, what's interesting is the on-base percentage, for as bad as the batting average has been, he ends yesterday's game with a 170 batting average and a 320 on base percentage. So you look at that and I just see like, man, if even the batting average can just be like 210 from here on out, which you hope for better than that. But then you're talking about an on base percentage that's closer to 360. And to your point, we don't need you to be Babe Ruth in the 7 spot, Michael Conforto. We just need you to get on base, move things along and hit for some pop occasionally. I still believe it's going to be more than that the hard hit stuff is eventually going to figure it out. I will warn everybody who's expecting me to give up on Conforto. 3 weeks ago, I tweeted about Max Muncy's hard hit numbers and how things seem to be trending in the right direction with some of the underlying stuff. Now the results have started to follow. So if you're expecting me to give up on Conforto, apologies.
And to your point, to help illustrate that point, like looking up the splits coming into today, previous 22 games, which is 28 days, 215 batting average, right? Which is not what you want to see, but a 360 OBP to your point.
Yeah.
And that's the things starting to right themselves a little bit better. And you can sort of see that. And like you said, he gets that average up to whatever it needs to be serviceable with a little bit of pop.
Yeah.
And you look at an OBP like that, and all of a sudden that's a pretty good player that you have in the 7 hole or so.
Yeah. I mean, the last 4 games, he's 3 for 9 with 6 walks. So that'll do the job. That'll do the job for Conforto with, by the way, a home run mixed in there as well. So those 4 guys all trending in the right direction. So good news, I think, for the Dodgers, both to see Ohtani and Freddie Freeman continuing to perform, Muncy figuring it out, and maybe, just maybe, Michael Conforto in the same boat. Let's get to a couple super chats JY says, I saw your response on Twitter, quote, we're just messengers and felt sympathy for you all. I appreciate all the timely updates. Some people get mad at us for just reporting what the Dodgers say. Look, if you have an opinion that you hate from us, feel free to let us have it. But when we're just reporting the news, Blake or Matt or whoever it is, I don't know. Don't get mad at us for what Dave Roberts says or doesn't say. Aaron Garcia, Tim Hill struck out Freddie Freeman, ... 7 months too late. So, yeah, we'll let him have that one today.
Yeah.
Jose says, free Ha-Seong Kim. Why does Doc treat him like he's Rudy? He isn't just happy to be here. He's trying to be an all-star.
Rudy.
Yeah, exactly. So good stuff on Ha-Seong Kim. And then Tim, Rushing didn't get a single start in this series. Why? We talked about Ha-Seong Kim and the usage there. Have you? This was the fear with calling Dalton Rushing up, is that, hey, as nice of a player as he is and is going to be, Will Smith is one of the best players. I think he was, last time we did the show, he was third in OPS in all of the National League. So the problem with trying to get Rushing into a game is you've got to take out the third best hitter in the National League in order to make room for him.
Yeah, and I think that's the issue, and I think that was why I was a lot more iffy on the Rushing call-up. Not that, like, I didn't think he could play. I think he can. I wish they would find a way to get him more at-bats. But, again, Conforto's starting to play better, right? Like it's kind of it's sort of just where does he fit? But for Kim, he's got an obvious spot. Yeah. And the people who are quote-unquote blocking him from playing it, he's better than. Or person, if you want to call it, if you just want to say, just put Rojas's name out there. For Rushing, it's like you said, you're taking one of the best offensive players in the league out of the lineup so Rushing can get more at bats. So yeah, I think he's just going to have to wear it this way for a while, especially if he wants to hang out. I will credit the Dodgers for this though, is that they started this guy's clock and he was their top prospect and said, you know what, we're going to start your clock and you're going to be a bench guy. And we're okay with that because it makes us as an overall team better. Respect to the Dodgers for that. It's not like they haven't burned money elsewhere before. So if you want to start a guy's clock, fine. And he's already, he's 24 or whatever it is. Like, yes, I'm having reconsider all of that.
Yeah.
I'm for having Rushing on this roster. If he has to sit and he's only getting, 8 at-bats a week or whatever it might be, then fine.
Yeah. And look, we talked about this with Rushing. Catching is the one position where you could make a case that being at the major league level and not playing, he is still adding value and gaining value and improving his development. Just sitting in the game planning meetings, learning how Will Smith and Mark Pryor and that crew does it, learning how to work with the pitchers and to talk through bullpens and all that kind of thing. There is value that he gets by just being in the clubhouse. Now, Ha-Seong Kim doesn't get that value as a backup position player just being in LA. Like, I think there's developmental risks on the position player side, with catcher being the one exception. So
I agree. That's a really good point. And to your point about sitting in the meetings and all that, he's young. Some of these core pitchers are young. So them just getting to know each other, because they're on the same team in the same clubhouse in the same dugout in those same meetings. Yamamoto, Sasaki, even guys like Blake Snell who are signed beyond this season, who might be veterans but are going to be here for a while. Like, even that kind of stuff can be useful for a catcher.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting news report, Anthony, from Bob Nightingale, friend of the show, been on the show before. He reported that the Dodgers are, quote, scouring the market for a left-handed bench bat. One of the names that Nightingale did not mention, but that came up in the last couple of weeks, is Ryan McMahon of the Colorado Rockies. He's an infielder. He is a left-handed bench bat, potentially playing the infield, primarily third base this year. I'm curious what your reaction is. The fact that this report is coming out at the very end of May, beginning of June, that the Dodgers might be actively pursuing a left-handed bench bat. What comes through your mind when you first see this?
Duh. I mean, yeah, like, it makes sense. I think the interesting part is McMahon as a name attached to it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not saying that part of it's not true. What I'm saying is I don't know how. Like, I don't know if that ever comes to fruition more than like a guy like Ryan McMahon who they've kicked the tires on already. Like something like that, right? Because like as a reporter, you'll hear stuff like that, and Bob's report is accurate, but it's also, it doesn't mean that Ryan McMahon's going to be the guy that they're targeting or going after or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, look, they've been monitoring guys for a while.
Yeah.
McMahon was a Rocky, so you can monitor their guys starting in spring training. But like other guys who might be more useful for them potentially, you also have to wait to see what the other team is going to be looking for, or if they're going to fall out of the race in late June or whatever the case may be. So there's still a long way to go on this stuff. But yeah, positionally, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about the report, first of all, is the left-handed part of it, because Dalton Rushing's a lefty, Ha-Seong Kim is a lefty. Why they would need another bat on the bench who's left-handed makes no sense to me. Now, if you wanted to say it's a right-handed bat and we're taking the Rojas spot out here, like, I don't think there's anybody that watches this video, Anthony, and says, no, hold on, we need to keep Miguel Rojas around. We definitely don't want to upgrade his spot on the bench. To me, it's the left-handed piece that is a bit confusing. Now, sure. Ryan McMahon is a lefty, and so I dug in a little bit on him. It's in his 9th season with the Rockies. He's 30 years old, for those that aren't overly familiar. You've seen the name. He's never once been an above-average offensive player at any point in his 9-year career. Playing in Coors Field, mind you. Right. He's never
right.
once 100 weighted runs created plus is league average. He has been above 93 one time. One time. He has been 7% below league average. That was his second best season of his 9-year career. He has hit 20 home runs the last 4 years. He's on pace for around the same this year, although his batting average is down. Here's the catch. Here's what if I was going to try and sell you on Ryan McMahon and I said, hey, pull up a chair. Here's the thing you're not seeing about Ryan McMahon. Let me tell you why this $16 million a year salary in 2026 and 2027 is something you should consider, which I don't think it is. But if you were going to make a case for Ryan McMahon, it would be this. He grades out well defensively at third base, which we know positionally is a spot that if you could upgrade there defensively, maybe late in games, maybe on days when Max Muncy isn't playing, sure. So he plays good defense and he plays third. The nerd stats actually kind of like a lot of the underlying stuff. He's 97th percentile in Major League Baseball this year in exit velocity, and he's in the top 25% in barrel rate, hard hit rate, chase rate, and walk rate. The catch, and the reason I'm not interested at all in Ryan McMahon, is one, he's owed $16 million a year for the next 2 years after this. No thanks, goodbye, enjoy. The second thing, though, is he has always had good underlying metrics, and it has never once resulted in production. And so I don't understand why it would need to be a lefty. I don't understand why it would be a guy who's due $32 million over the next 2 years. And I definitely don't understand why it would be a guy who in 9 years has never once flashed anything resembling production.
Yeah. When I say, like, when my response is duh to the Dodgers are looking for someone, it's not so much the lefty part of it.
Yeah.
Although I will say, when one of those lefty bats is a catcher, you sort of have to move him off to the side.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of not available always. He's a guy like that is only available in, like, let's say, like the highest leverage type of situations when the matchup dictates that you need that guy there. If that guy's a catcher. Going past that, I don't see clearing a roster spot on this current roster for a guy like McMahon.
Yeah.
If you're really going to go after a bench bat, that guy has to be like a Joey Gallo type. Where
now Blake Williams is just like, getting a little warm fuzzy here when he hears the name Joey Gallo.
And I use Joey Gallo because he's a recent guy that they've done this with, but basically a guy that anytime he steps into the box, there's a chance he's going to hit it 425 feet.
Yeah.
And playing in Coors Field, McMahon, the 20 homer, like, what is that? Like 13 everywhere else? You know what I mean? Like, right. You need a guy who is a power threat. Every time you put him in, that's why you're putting him in there essentially. So anyway, I don't think we need to spend too much time more on Ryan McMahon unless he ends up becoming a Dodger, but that's sort of my take on it.
Yeah, I'm with you. It would be very easy to upgrade. Like if Ryan McMahon was not owed $32 million over the next 2 years, and if he was like a free agent and the Dodgers said, hey, Miguel Rojas, thanks for your time. We're going to bring in this Ryan McMahon guy. Obvious upgrade. Like clear, you would hear not a single negative word from me about it. If you have to give anything up for the guy and commit to paying him $32 million over the next 2 years, then I'm out. on all of it. So that's the tricky part. Now, again, if you told me there's a bench bat out there that the Dodgers could go get that would upgrade the Miguel Rojas position, whether it's a third baseman or a utility guy or an out, whatever, like if you told me player X is replacing Miguel Rojas, it would be hard for me to be disappointed no matter who the player is. If it's a Ryan McMahon level player that the Dodgers could go bring in, I'd be thrilled because I just think Miguel Rojas offers that little to this team. I just don't see them feeling the need to go give something up and chase down a player given the current state of the roster.
Yeah. And this report came out today, so we're talking about it, but I don't think the Dodgers are aggressively pursuing a player like Ryan McMahon right now.
Yeah.
Like I said, they may have checked in on him. They've probably checked in on 75 other guys as well.
Yeah, it's true.
Ryan's the name that Bob received when he wrote this. And
I should clarify, Bob was not the one who said Ryan McMahon.
Oh, okay.
He said they are scouring the market for a left-handed bat. About a week ago, Ryan McMahon was connected to the Dodgers, who happens to be a left-handed, in theory, bench bat on a team not named the Colorado Rockies.
Yeah. I mean, and apologies to Bob. You did not throw that name out there. Like I said, I think that we're still a long way from any kind of like real move that's going to come, that's going to like maybe move the needle.
Yeah.
Even if it's not a blockbuster, just somebody who's going to play for them on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I think they're still a few weeks away from that even becoming a reality.
Yeah. Look, the Dodgers are scouring the market at all times for all things. They just want to be in the mix when somebody or something comes available. So that's why when you said, duh, I agree. Do I think it's a left-handed bench bat? No. Do I think they're aggressive? No. I think they're just constantly putting their ear to the ground and saying, hey, Cleveland, Lane Thomas, he's struggling. What are you guys thinking on that? Like he's not a left-handed bench bat, but I think there's probably guys out there who are struggling, like the reliever they just traded for from the Reds. And they
totally.
What are you thinking about doing there? It's like, we're out on the guy. It's like, okay, great. Well, let's talk. So,
and that one makes a ton of sense for very obvious reasons. Like the bench bat stuff, which is more of a generality.
Yeah.
Is just kind of like, okay, we'll wait and see here what comes about.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to hear in the comments afterwards what people think about the Dodgers replacing Miguel Rojas, whether or not there's any part of you that talks yourself into a Ryan McMahon type, or no, thanks, I'm good, not worth the time and not worth the effort. So let us know in the comments below because I'm curious on that one. Let's get to some injury updates. There's 5 names on your screen. I have around 17 more in here, but let's rattle through them. Let's start with Mookie Betts. Fracture at the tip of his left toe. Couldn't even put a shoe on the last couple of days. Today, reportedly, he could. He is day-to-day, no IL stint expected. He was reported before the game to be resuming baseball activities today. The injury reportedly happened, Anthony, going to the bathroom in the dark, and he stubbed his toe. Let's start with the obvious. Are you buying this story as how Mookie Betts smashed his toe?
I mean, I don't have any reason to doubt it. Yeah.
This wasn't an 18-pound bowling ball that maybe found its way to his toe, Anthony?
Feels like the damage would be more significant if it were that.
Look, whoever hasn't stubbed their toe doing something stupid, smashing it in. Now, as far as I know, I don't think I've ever fractured my toe. That said, I'm also not trying to be a professional athlete the day after I stub my toe either. So, this seems like the Freddie Freeman twisting his ankle in the guest bathroom shower kind of a situation. But the good news, again, no injured list expected, hoping to be back in the lineup in the next few days. So it seems like the Dodgers maybe dodged a bullet. One guy they didn't dodge a bullet with was Evan Phillips.
Let me throw something out there.
Yeah.
Real quick, Jeff. And I was going to say I don't mean to derail the rest of this conversation, but I do because I'm going to ask you this.
Great.
What do you think if they just said, you know what, Mookie, we're going to backdate you. You're going to go on the IL, get some rest, get right from this, get right for this with the swing. Some no pressure time off, no pressure to come back at a certain time.
Yeah.
Wise, dumb. If he's healthy, play him. What do you think?
I say dumb because I think Mookie Betts would hate it. And Mookie Betts has been an unbelievable player for the Dodgers. And I think he has earned the right, much like Freddie Freeman has, to have immense input on how he is handled. And I think if Mookie Betts says to Dave Roberts, I'm fine. I can run. I can throw. I can plant. I can play. And I want to hit. And I want to hit myself out of this slump. And if he is healthy enough to play, that's the underlying assumption here. But for me, I'm saying, Mookie, if you want to play, we're going to get you back in there in 2 or 3 days. That's me.
Yeah. I'm on the same lane there. I'm with you on that. Especially if he's saying like, no, I'm good. I can play. You get him in. You play.
Yeah.
I posed that question because I saw it on, I don't know, Reddit or something that I was scrolling through about this. And I just thought it was because someone said, look, they downplayed how much the sickness, the illness at the beginning of the season had an effect on his body. Maybe you get some time off here and you get that right, just kind of recharge, reset everything. I thought, that's interesting. Just, it was kind of one of those fleeting thoughts, but I'm in the boat of if the guy is healthy and the guy's telling you he's healthy and he's a guy like Mookie Betts, you put him in the lineup as soon as he's ready.
I'm glad you paused because I think that's a totally fair question and a good one, and one that I'm sure you're not the only person asking. And if that is what they ultimately decided to do, I don't think it would be the worst thing. Again, I think it's just where Mookie Betts, he's probably earned that right. So more injury updates. I mentioned Evan Phillips, Tommy John surgery done for all of 2025, part of 2026. This is a huge deal. Like, I know Evan Phillips may not be like a quote unquote household name outside of Los Angeles, but you could make a real case he's the best relief pitcher that the Dodgers have, in spite of what they paid for Tanner Scott and what his peak might be and how valuable Blake Trinan has been. Evan Phillips has been unbelievable for this team in the regular season and the postseason. And so this is a huge deal to me that he's going to miss, again, not only this season, but, potentially up to the first half of next year as well.
Huge loss for the Dodgers. This one, as a fan, didn't hit me very hard because I think I just felt it was coming the whole time.
Yeah.
And I know we've talked about it a bit on some of the shows. It started as like nothing to see here. Like the IL part of it is just kind of like what we were talking about, Mookie. You're just going to give him some time off. He'll be all right. He'll come back. Going to be all good. Evan Phillips said the same thing. And we were both like, I think we might have been on the day that happened or maybe the day after, something like that. And we both said, okay, we'll see. Sure. Yeah. And then the next update that we got, however many days later that was like, it's just kind of not progressing like we thought it would. So he's not going to be back on like the date he's eligible. It was something like that. And I went, he's done.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the reality of baseball, right? Like that's just the world that we live in. So that's the update on Evan Phillips. Roki Sasaki and Tyler Glasnow updates. Glasnow has thrown a bullpen. He's a little bit further ahead than Sasaki, although Sasaki has been described as, quote, poised to start throwing again. So both of those guys seem to be trending in the right direction. Glasnow and Sasaki do. Michael Kopech pitched both May 28th and May 29th, could return this week. The results down in AAA has probably not been, I shouldn't say that, have definitely not been what any of us were hoping for, but he is throwing like 101 miles an hour. So he's got that going. Kirby Yates will throw a simulated game this week, could be an option to return afterwards. Luis Garcia, right adductor strain, backdated a few days. He's the 15th Dodger pitcher to the injured list. But I do want to spend some time on this last one, and that's Emmet Sheehan, because it's the most positive update that we have here. 3 scoreless innings with 5 strikeouts in his season debut for Oklahoma City, touching 98 miles an hour. This show has consistently been a pro Emmet Sheehan show. And this is a guy, Anthony, who genuinely could be a difference maker for the Dodgers in the second half. Not that he's going to be like, all-star level pitcher necessarily, but I think he really could be close to that and very, very good for a team that is desperately, desperately, desperately in need of guys to do what Landon Knack did yesterday. I think Emmet Sheehan's going to be that guy.
And I think Emmet Sheehan has a ceiling higher than a guy like Landon Knack.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like, I think this can be not an ace, I'm not saying that, but like a front end of the rotation kind of arm.
Totally.
And that was great to see.
Yeah.
That was great to see that he was back out there. The line looked great. The fact that he was touching 98 is a positive. I'm not going to lie. My level of like almost indifference that I just described about the Evan Phillips news, because I was resigned to the fact that it was already happening.
Yeah.
was on the exact opposite side of the spectrum when I read the reports about Emmet Sheehan.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah, I was excited. I was giddy.
Yeah.
Because I think this is also a guy who could end up in this rotation by the end of the season.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that's exciting because, one, I think he's got a very high ceiling. Two, they hella need him.
Yeah.
And three, he's not just a guy who would be called up to eat some innings. He's good.
Yeah. He's a potential dude for this team. And I think you're right. He's not a number one future ace necessarily, I don't think. But if you kind of put somebody in the mix of like a 2.5 type, like a 2 on his best days and a 3 most days, I think that's where he could be. He has that type of stuff. And so to your point, Landon Knack, as good as he has been, can be, is more of a floor pitcher. Emmet Sheehan is a ceiling guy. And it's not a coincidence that when he finished his first year prior to getting injured, you know, he had surpassed a lot of guys in the prospect ranking within the organization just because of how well he had pitched and how nasty his stuff is. He's a great kid. He's a hard worker. He's a smart kid. And so, again, 3 scoreless innings for Oklahoma City. So it's not to say that he's going to be banging down the door here next week, but by the time we get to 2 or 3 weeks from now, he very well could be at the major league level trying to give the Dodgers 5 or 6 innings, which I think is great news for them. Any of these other injury updates, Sasaki, Glasnow, Kopech, Yates, Garcia, anyone else there that you want to touch on before we move on and take some questions here?
Roki is a little concerning for me. The fact that he's only poised to start throwing is interesting. The later this obviously, the later this goes, the more doubt I have that we might even see this guy, at some point before like September. But it's getting to a point where like, I'm very curious what those medicals look like. And is this a situation where they're trying to avoid something disastrous?
Yeah. It's pure speculation now, but
it is.
I'm with
it is pure speculation on my part, but that's where my mind goes when it's coming to injury reports from this organization.
Yeah. And the reason that he came over and the velocity was down. I mean, there's lots of reasons to question how healthy he really is. But remains to be seen. Again, nobody is telling you, hey, don't worry about it. He's poised to start throwing again. There's nothing to see here, Dodgers fans. We mentioned we are typically skeptical of things. When a guy actually starts throwing and then throws again, that's good news because that's tangible. That's not lying about things. Yes. Poised to start throwing is meaningless until one of us comes on here and says, hey, good news. He threw to hitters or he threw a bullpen or whatever might come next. So there's the Dodgers injury updates for you. Let's get to some questions before we get out of here. And I do have a college softball take to throw at you all before this night ends. But if we've got any Dodgers questions first, we'll get to that. Dodgers Hub asks, did Yamamoto's hip discomfort from the start in Cleveland play a factor in him not being as sharp tonight? Also, rank the bullpen based on who you trust more, assuming everyone is healthy. So do you want to summarize kind of what we said about the Yamamoto hip piece first? And then I'll pull up a list of bullpen arms and we can do a top 5 here.
Yeah, I think right now, both Jeff and I were not very concerned about the hip with today's performance. I think the Dodgers have been overly cautious with these kinds of things in the past, especially when it comes to their starting pitchers. And so if the hip was a real thing that they thought was going to hinder him or something that needed to be addressed, I don't think they would have left him in the game that he injured it in, and he probably would not have taken the ball today. Considering he is their number one, they would have been overly cautious with this guy, especially considering the state of the current rotation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely agree. Let's talk ranking the bullpen based on who you trust more, assuming everyone is healthy. I'm going to go out on a limb and say guys that are out for this entire year, i.e. Evan Phillips, we're going to remove from this list. But if we're projecting guys like Brusdar Graterol, Edgardo Henriquez, Michael Kopech, Blake Trinan as guys who are going to come back, Kirby Yates at some point, if we're including guys who are expected back this season. So again, just to go down the list here, you've got Kirby Yates, Alex Vesia, Blake Trinan, Tanner Scott, of course, no Evan Phillips. Let's go Kopech, Henriquez, Graterol, Jack Dreyer, Ben Kasperius, Anthony Bonda. Of all the names I just read, everybody is healthy. Who do you trust the most?
Probably Kasperius.
You trust him more than Trinan and Tanner Scott
Oh,
and
okay.
all those guys?
Sorry. I forgot we can count the guys who I know you just read off the entire list. It's yeah.
You scared the crap out of me. It's like
No.
I like Ben Kasperius too, but holy smokes!
Well, the obvious answers are obvious. Like,
I mean, are they? I think there's a lot of people, like, when I tell you that my number one is Tanner Scott, I think there's people are not in the comment section going to be thrilled with that answer because of how he's pitched the last few times.
yeah, and I would have no problem with that answer. And I might put him number one too. I think he's going to be fine. I think as a reliever, especially as a closer, those like an ERA number can get inflated quickly. I'm not worried about that. But like fully healthy, Blake Trinan, totally trust him. Right? He's in like probably my top two. Tanner Scott right there. Those are probably 1 and 2 for me. Kirby Yates, probably 3.
Yeah. Because now I think you're in the territory of, if you want to tell me that Ben Kasperius is 4th on that list behind those 3 guys, sure. And again, you might be right with Ben Kasperius higher than some of those guys based on where they're at in their career, where he's at in his career, and the stuff is undeniable. So I'm not telling you it's like the hottest of hot takes to say Ben Kasperius. I just think it's maybe let's take a little bit of a deep breath. And if 3 or 4 months from now, we're at the same spot, because you could make a case that Jack Dreyer has been as good as Ben Kasperius has been this year. So there's not one, there's 2 guys.
And that's my fault. My initial response was to like, I'm thinking who I can deploy today. Yeah. And you're right. You did make the rules that guys who are injured but coming back are eligible. I would even put then Michael Kopech.
I was going to ask, because he's a guy that does not have a long history of being awesome, but was awesome for the Dodgers, has struggled in his rehab assignments mightily. So he was going to be the guy I was curious where he falls. If you tell me that you want Kasperius over Kopech, I wouldn't disagree with you. If you want to tell me that Dreyer is, other than Tanner Scott, the top ranked lefty ahead of Bonda, ahead of Vesia, and even maybe ahead of a guy like Michael Kopech, I don't think that's insane either. But I think Kopech is the interesting one where he fits.
Yeah, I would say, okay, so let's go through this. I would say for me currently, Trinan 1, Tanner Scott 2, Yates 3, Kasperius 4, Kopech would be 5.
Okay, and then like Dreyer 6th maybe,
and then probably Dreyer, and then maybe Gratterall, maybe Dreyer, Gratterall right there.
Okay, yeah. I think I probably agree. I would put Tanner Scott 1, just because I think the extended dominance we've seen prior to this season justifies it. But like I see Matty Man in the comments saying, I trust Kasperius more tomorrow than Tanner Scott. 100% agree. 100% agree with you on that. I'm projecting out a little bit. And
Evan Phillips is out, Pinsanity, because he's not going to come back this season.
Yeah, that was the one tweak I said. If he's not going to be back this season, then we weren't including him in that conversation. But look, if Evan Phillips was healthy, I said before, he might be number 1 on my list.
Yeah, he would be. If Phillips was healthy, he might be my number 2 guy, maybe my number 1 guy.
Yeah, he's in the mix. Snert says, Dustin May is 1/3 of an inning from his career high. What do you think the plan is for the rest of the season with him? We talked about this on our last show. His next start, he will set a career high in innings for a single season. Do you think they just keep running him out there until the wheels fall off, or what?
Yes, I do. I think they keep running him out on the quote unquote normal schedule for him. And they just say, if you get hurt, you get hurt. I think if another guy goes down, then they maybe start to manage everyone in the rotation a little differently. But I think they're like, just go out there and keep showing us something, because I think part of that too is his contract situation.
Yeah.
Is that he's going to be a free agent. So yeah, I think that they do this because they need him, and 2, partly because of that contract situation, where if it's a guy who gets hurt again, that it's just, okay, well, they're probably done with Dustin May. But yeah, I think if he continues to show really good signs, and we get to like end of August, then they maybe start to pull the reins back a little bit if they think that he's going to be a contributor in the postseason.
Yeah.
Then that's for everyone. It's not just Dustin May. But yeah, I think right now, and for the immediate and semi long-term future of this season, I think they just keep running him out there.
Yeah. He's also pitching probably as well as he's ever pitched before in his career. And so kind of now doesn't seem like a great time to slow him down. But Ivan asked this question. I think they're related. Do you think the Dodgers blow up small injuries just to ensure we have pitching for October, especially with guys like Snell and Glass now? I don't think they blow up small injuries. I think they are overly cautious.
Yeah.
And I relate this to the Dustin May conversation. And maybe this is going to sound unfair to Dustin May, but I think the Dodgers, if they had their wishes, Dustin May would not be in the mix for the starting rotation for the postseason. And so I think if Dustin May had a small injury and Blake Snell had a small injury, I think they're going to handle those two situations very, very differently, because with Blake Snell, it's like, yo, we desperately need you to be available in October. Dustin May, we would really like you to be available in October, but our season's probably not going to hinge on if you can give us 4 or 5 innings. I also think the contract point you make about Dustin May, he doesn't want to be rested because he's going into a free agency and he's going to tell the team, keep throwing me out there. I want to prove I can go through 150 innings this season and prove that I can stay healthy. So I think to me, it's kind of a combination of all those things as it relates to this question and the previous one about Dustin May.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with the overly cautious part of this, and I think they're overly cautious because of their recent track record without all of this, and because in the moment they have to be. They just can't. They can't afford to lose more starting pitching.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's see some more questions here. Jose, if our pitching staff was healthy, would Sheehan see starts? Is he better than Knack? I say yes. You say yes, right?
Yes.
Is he better than Dustin May?
Right now, I don't know. Right now I would probably say Dustin May.
I agree with you.
And Tony Gonsolin.
Okay. So I was going to say, I like Tony Gonsolin. I have historically been higher on Gonsolin than May. I think May's pitching as well as he's ever pitched right now, and he's healthy. So I'd probably have him a tick above Gonsolin. But I think he's kind of right in. He's ahead of Knack, below May, and I think him versus Tony Gonsolin is a conversation. And Jose, I just want to say thank you for not including Clayton Kershaw in this conversation. I appreciate that. John wants to know, does it make sense to allow Ohtani to even pitch this season or wait till next year to give him a full preseason? I think you have to throw all the rules out about Shohei Ohtani. Everything you assume about a normal human being and a normal pitcher and what they need or don't need, just ignore all those things, because Ohtani's he's an alien unicorn. He's not an alien or a unicorn. He's an alien unicorn, and the guy's going to be fine. And you know what? We're trying to win the World Series this year, and Shohei Ohtani pitching baseballs is going to be helpful for that.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things to consider here. One, it's been 2 years. It's not like this was last year. They've slow played this about as slowly as you can play this kind of situation for a pitcher. The second thing is the same thing we said about Mookie, is if the player tells you this is what I want to do and he's healthy enough to do it, you let him do it.
Yep.
A third thing here, and this was me galaxy braining the pitching staff in October, is let's assume he's fully healthy and that he's already been pitching, but maybe they're just still limiting a lot of things. Is he a bullpen option in October? And I don't even know, that crossed my mind. I don't even know all the rules in terms of DHing and relieving. I know what it is when he's a starting pitcher, but I wonder if he's a leverage option for them in October. That's a lot tougher when you're a reliever, because it's you might get 20 minutes notice at most if you're going to start the next half inning or whatever. So it's probably stupid, but it was just a thought I had in terms of how he could potentially be deployed this season. I think ultimately, assuming he's the Shohei Ohtani that we saw on the mound last time and he can go 5 innings, they want him in the rotation.
Yeah, and Iris makes a good point. Ohtani does show a lot of joy while pitching as well. So clearly it matters to him. And look, he's been throwing these live bullpens. I just told you he set the record for most home runs in a month by a Dodger. So clearly it's not hurting the offensive side of things. Let's see. Morgan wants to know, do you guys follow the NCAA baseball tournament at all every year? Top 2 sides, Vandy and Texas, got eliminated by mid-majors today. I am not a college baseball fan. I become one when the University of Oregon Ducks are better than the Vanderbilt Commodores, where my brother went, which they were for most of the season, or the Oregon State Beavers, which they were for most of this season. And then they lost in 2 games, and so I stopped caring immediately afterwards. So I think I had a week It was totally bogus the way they lost the first game. We don't need to get into this. Do you care about the NCAA baseball tournament, Anthony?
Yeah, I like it. It's fun, especially like as soon as it starts with the regionals. I think it's fun. It's fun baseball. I like it. I think like the regionals and the super regionals are more exciting than the actual College World Series.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. I'll take your word for it. Okay, now the real important stuff here. Richard with the super chat, currently watching on board my cruise ship sailing to Alaska.
Nice, Richard.
Yeah, why anybody would watch into to the two of us on a cruise ship is beyond me, but we appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. But this is why he's tuning in. Important question. Should I hit the buffet or stay with the traditional dining? I need your food expertise. Have you been on a cruise, Anthony?
It's been many years, but I have before. Yes.
Okay. So for those, I'll just set the stage here, and I'm assuming Richard's cruise is the same. But for those that don't know, the traditional dining is like you go into a formal dining room at night, and they hand you a menu, and you can order whatever the hell you want, and however many of them. So they might give you a menu with like 5 appetizers, 8 entrees, and like 3 desserts, and you could say, I want 2 of this appetizer, I want these 2 entrees, and I want all 3 desserts, or whatever. So it's not to say the dining room is less food than the buffet. But look, a buffet is a buffet. So I'll defer to you first, Anthony. If those were your choices, a great buffet or the fancy dining room with your pick from, 13 options or so, which would you choose?
Understanding the rules of the traditional dining on a cruise ship, I'm staying with traditional dining.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, the move is the brunch buffet. Just absolutely smash the buffet at like 10:30 a.m. Like omelet bar, whatever else, French toast, whatever, bacon throughout everywhere, whatever you got to do, crush the buffet at 10:30. And then at like 5 p.m., I'm going to the traditional dining room. And I'm saying I would like 2 shrimp cocktails. I would like the filet and the lobster. Yes, please. And give me a slice of the cheesecake. And maybe I'll try the cobbler as well. And then maybe, Richard, depending on how the night goes, if they've got a little pizza spot that stays open till like 11:45, your boy's going to be down there crushing a few slices of pizza at 11:45. So that's how I'm laying out my day personally. But, if
I ever go on another cruise, Jeff, I'm going with you. We're going hand in hand, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sleeping till 9:45, buffet, 5.5 hours by the pool, shrimp cocktails, fillets, and lobsters. And then again, find out what they still got cooking at 11:45, 12:31, and go from there. So enjoy the cruise, Richard. We appreciate you. David does want to know, what's your best go-to bedtime snack of all time? I mean, I just said pizza. I think pizza is cold, hot. If it's in the fridge, it's just forever an option. So that's the first thing that comes to mind after the conversation we just said. Richard does add, by the way, that pizza is very much in play. So good to hear, Richard. Good to hear. You don't need to save room for that. You just create extra room at 11:45 p.m.
My favorite bedtime snacks are popcorn, which I think everyone knows I'm a big popcorn guy here.
I forget. Are you going are we doing butter popcorn? Are we doing kettle corn? Are we doing something?
I like all popcorn. So like if we have a bag of kettle corn in there or there's some caramel corn somewhere, like I'm good with it all.
You don't discriminate in the popcorn category.
Not too much, but my Head and Shoulders favorite, my Blake Trine and Tanner Scott, if you will, in our rankings, is like movie theater butterish popcorn.
It's impossible for the movie theater to put too much butter on my popcorn. Yeah. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, insane. And then the other one is like, let's go dig in the freezer because I know we got a pint or a gallon of ice cream somewhere in there.
See, does that not keep you up? I see people saying that, and I love ice cream. I just feel like as a bedtime snack, I'm not sleeping well that night if I pound 3 scoops of sugar.
So I'm that way. No, the ice cream doesn't do that to me, but like a pizza will. If it's too late. Like if it's 9:50 West Coast time right now. If I got off this thing, grab 3 slices of pizza, because I'm not just eating one piece of pizza.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Then yeah, I'm gonna have to sit upright in a while in bed while I watch my shows.
There you go. I'm watching Mobland, by the way. You seen Mobland?
It's on the list. I am currently watching The Better Sister on Amazon Prime.
Okay, I haven't heard.
I've heard fantastic things about Mobland. That's coming up soon.
Yeah, Tom Hardy. I'm all in on anything with Tom Hardy. So, okay, I have a college softball take, and I asked you to read about this. I don't know if people have seen this story. It was the UCLA versus Tennessee softball game, which now is irrelevant because I believe Tennessee came back and beat UCLA in the later game, and so maybe UCLA's out. I don't know how this stuff works, but basically UCLA Tennessee softball. I believe UCLA hits a home run that ties the game, maybe a 2-run home run, and the girl who hits the home run upon video review did not touch home plate on her first time through, and then a teammate grabs her, sends her back, and says, "Hey, you got to touch the plate." So she touches the plate, ties the game. So then Tennessee comes out and says, "Hold on a second. We need to review this play because she didn't touch home plate," which is accurate, it seems. And because a teammate touched her and redirected her, that is against the rules, and therefore the run should not count. This was the story. Here are my thoughts, Anthony. The coach who tried to review this should be ejected and suspended from the sport for weeks upon time. The idea that you would hit a ball over the fence and miss stepping on home plate because of a celebration, and the other coach says, "Hey, I know she hit the ball over the fence, but she didn't touch home plate, and the technicality of the rule here is go screw yourself." I don't even know why I don't know why we run around the bases at all, Anthony. You hit the ball over the fence. It's a run. Who cares? You should be able to dance, roll, not even run if you don't want to. Like the fact that somebody in this moment would say, "Hey, I know she hit a home run, but technically she didn't touch the base, and technically her teammate grabbed her and redirected her, and I want to win under those pretenses." Get the hell out of here. That's my take.
Yeah, I also think it was stupid too because you can miss other bases and go back and touch them.
Yeah,
which is what happened in this situation. Now, like a teammate can't touch you in those. Like I get that, but yeah, I think you had a hot take on this. You sort of kind of touched on it a little bit here, but I'll let you share that, and then I'll share what I have.
Well, are you talking about the softball one that you meant, like the
about if you hit a home run, what happens after the home run?
Yeah, you said it. I think if we're talking about the same thing, you said in adult league slow pitch softball, you don't even have to run to first. You hit a ball over the fence, you get to just go sit down. What the hell are we doing? You hit the ball over the fence. Over the fence. Why are we arguing about if you have to touch home plate? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm with you. Especially when we're talking about like pace of play and like getting the game moving, Shohei hits one 3/4 of the way up to the pavilion. Get some sunflower seeds in your face and have a seat, bud.
Yeah,
you're good.
Go dance. I mean, again, the idea that you would be the type of person that says, "Excuse me, sir, technically she didn't touch home plate, and so technically that run shouldn't count." Like, I get winning at all costs, whatever. That you would cross the line into insanity. Now, the way this all played out is they reviewed it and they realized she did not touch home plate, but then they also realized that technically whether or not another player assisted a base runner, that's actually not reviewable, which is the irony of this whole thing.
So dumb.
Is that after 10 minutes, they were like, "Yeah, we're actually not even allowed to review this. So the run counts." And it's like, if they would have changed this, I cannot even imagine the insanity.
If they would have changed that call, it would have been national news. Like everybody would have known about this. Like you're the one who told me about it. If they would have overturned that, I would have already known about it. This would have been everywhere.
Yeah, totally. So it's all stupid. And the review system sucks. I mean, I referenced Oregon baseball. If you have not seen how Oregon baseball lost their first game of the regional, it was 8-7, I believe. Runners on first and third with one out in the bottom of the 8th. They hit a sac fly to left. Runners coming home. Ball comes in. The catcher is, I cannot like say this in an unbiased fashion because I'm a Duck fan. Go watch the video. Completely blocking the plate. 18 inches in front of the plate. Completely with blocking it. The runner stutter steps. The ball comes in. It bounces, hits the top of the catcher's glove, and flies to the backstop. And then the catcher gets run over because there is no way around the catcher. Runner comes back, touches home plate. They call him safe. Then they review it. And as the best is, it's a 10-minute review. The broadcast, if you catch the video of the broadcast, they're explaining you can't block the plate unless you have the ball. And they're showing the clip of the catcher never at any point having the ball. And then the ump comes on and says, the catcher wasn't blocking the plate, and it was an aggressive act by the runner. Therefore, the runner is out. The runner is ejected. And the runner from first who had tagged up and gone to second actually has to go back to first. And they lost by 1 run. It was the most insane thing I've ever seen. So there you go. Shout out to college baseball and softball for having. If you think the umpiring and the rules are stupid at the majors, I guess I can tell you that it's way worse at the college level.
Yeah.
That's what I got.
Yeah. Agreed. Dumb. The I don't know how to say this appropriately, but the gall, I guess, of the opposing manager in the softball game to review the home run celebration, stepping on the plate, incredible.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's good for them, I guess, or bad for them. I don't know. So on that note, thank you to everybody who joined us. Over 2,000 people in here on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter on a Sunday night. We appreciate you all for hopping with us. Again, the Dodgers lose today. They take 2 out of 3 from the Yankees. They're 7-5 in this gauntlet that they have started and are not even halfway done. They got 17 games to go, including 3 against the Mets at home this week. But they keep winning. They won 7 of 12. They've got a 2-game lead in the division. So things are, as I've begun to say, up and to the right, folks. Up and to the right. That is Anthony Witrado. I am Jeff Spiegel. Check out DodgerBlue.com, DodgerBlue1958 on social media. And stay tuned right here on the YouTube page because we've got all the post-game information from Blake, who was at the stadium conducting interviews, recording all that stuff for you. So that'll be available on our YouTube page. Enjoy the rest of your night, everyone. As always, go Dodgers. And yes, still champs.